Welcome to Biohacking with Brittany, a podcast focused on holistic health, nutrition, biohacking, and more. I'm your host, Brittany Ford, registered holistic nutritionist and self-proclaimed biohacker. During the last 10 years, I've focused on healing my gut and hormonal issues through lifestyle changes, nutrition, and of course, biohacks. And now I teach others to do the same. I'm so excited you're joining me today, so let's dive right in. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Biohacking with Brittany. I am super excited and thankful to have you joining us today. This is a very cool episode, and we're talking about things that I've actually never talked about on the podcast before. We're kind of getting into quantum physics and EMF from a completely different perspective than my own perspective. And I have Philipp Samor joining us, who is the founder and CEO of Leela Quantum Tech. He's also a kundalini yoga teacher, energy healer, or energy leader. Oh my gosh, you can tell my brain it's Friday. And pioneer in modern frequency medicine. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Brittany. I'm really excited to join your podcast today.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. So, first and foremost, can you kind of just give us a background in your career and kind of what propelled you to start the company that you have right now?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll try to make it short, but I, used to work in small companies and mid-sized companies and in giant companies, so call it big corporate. I used to be vice president at T-Mobile International, responsible for 14 countries, and then I was also vice president at T-Mobile US. That was actually how I moved to the US with my family
Mm.
at that time. And then I had several other roles too. Anyway, that was not really the path that I originally wanted to be in. It was not really, I started to be in that space in corporate, in big corporate, but it wasn't really fulfilling. And I knew that. So already pretty early on in the early 2000s, I started to actually develop skills in meditation, yoga, started to really dig into that, started to question what I was doing and the general, okay, I get up in the morning, I do my work all day, I go home, drink a beer, and go to bed, right? I
Mm.
knew that was really not something that we're here for. And so I started searching. And through that path, I met my wife at some point, and my wife was born with the ability to see aura. She never lost this conscious connection to her true self, and which I had completely forgotten who I really am. So I was just observing myself as this physical form, if you will. And yeah, so that catapulted me a little further, and I started to actually go through shamanic workshops and start to learn how to do past life work sessions with people and train them, and on and on and on. And at some point, I was still staying in corporate, in the corporate world, though, because the impulse was still there to not leave that yet. And I knew I would leave that space at some point. So in 2016, finally, it was the time, and it was like a calling. It was like, okay, so you're done in this world now, and also something, once you start developing these skills and you're realizing more of what's really behind the physical world, it's something that is still hard to talk about when you're an
Mm.
executive at a large company. So that part of myself I had to keep a little like hidden sometimes, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I just needed to be who I am and just always openly talk about that. And then I started to only really do what's coming out of my heart and what's like a calling. So we started a carbon 60 company at some point because of the healing possibilities that lay within that on multiple levels. And then through various interactions with top-notch healers across the world and my own experiences, we came up with a technology that can do pretty amazing things, and they sort of merge consciousness and science in a way. And that was a calling. It was really something, okay, I'm here to research this more, to build this, to provide this to the people, and yeah, to figure out how it can help humanity on the broader path. It sounds pretty big. It's all small also, but it is somewhat. It feels also like a big calling at the same time.
Right. Yeah, I think it's so interesting that you had such a different career to what you have right now. Like so different. Um and it's very interesting when people kind of have these callings to do something else. And it kind of like starts as a thought and then it kind of becomes louder and louder and then you kind of just have to one day listen to it. I can definitely relate to that. So I think that's really cool that you were able to kind of step into that and own that, kind of like you said. So can you, like, at a very basic level, like, explain your technology? Like, how does it work and like what does it actually do?
Yes. So we have created the quantum block and the infinity block, which we actually also offered to the people because we didn't want to have a technology that only we have access to, and then people would become dependent on us in a way. That is sort of the old world business model.
Mm,
And for us, it was very clear it has to be done in a decentralized way where really everybody that wants to get access to that. So what do these blogs do that we actually also use to make all the other products that we offer, like water bottles, and capsules, and cards, and all of that? Mm, there is in between the plates of these blocks, if someone looks at it, you'll see plates on the top and on the bottom, and inside these plates, there's a multidimensional quantum energy space that can quantum physically refine any object that you put inside. So it can permanently imprint pure quantum energy into any object. So let's take a glass or a ring, a gold ring or a watch, and you can put it inside, and then after that, you will have raised the vibration of the jewelry piece that you put in or whichever other object. And that object then will vibrate and transmit this quantum energy. And most people can actually notice the difference. Obviously, people that can see energy, they have an advantage because they can see exactly what's going on and they're all fascinated by it. So we have
hmm,
actually a lot of healers and seers as customers because they just love the products. But even an everyday person would at minimum tell you, wow, this shines more. This is almost as if it's more alive or something like that along those
hmm,
lines, right? Everybody's a little bit different.
right.
And you can also copy any frequency that you want inside these plates. So you could be your own homeopath with it. It sounds pretty difficult because we all know homeopathy is not very easy. You have to dilute a certain substance multiple times until you arrive at a certain frequency. And then how do you do that? Now, with this, it's actually extremely simple because you could, let's say, take a healing plant or just a little leaf or a piece of that healing plant and put it inside. And you put, let's say, an aluminum card inside with it. And then after just a few seconds, depending on which device you're using, the frequency of that healing plant will have been permanently copied into that other object. And if you then also mm, imprint it a little bit more with quantum energy, this frequency gets transmitted and boosted out so that someone that wears it now has the frequency of this specific healing plant available and can leverage it for the human body or for the energy system. That's pretty much, those are some of the things you can do with it. But even if you don't do anything with it actively, you can just have it sit at home, and it harmonizes and neutralizes all potentially harmful frequencies, which includes EMF. So EMF is
Mm.
completely harmonized and neutralized in the radius of these blocks. And now this I know already, so I got to take a step back real quick here, because this may sound woo-woo to people that that this is possible. And I would agree that it sounds like that, but that's not a big deal, because we can absolutely measure the output, what it does, and the results it has on physical organisms. And from the very beginning, certainly, I knew that there's tons of people, the vast majority, that cannot see energy, and for whom energy may still be a strange concept, even though the reality is we're all energy and frequency anyway, and nothing else. And it just appears to be that we have all this matter, right? We do have that
Hmm.
too, but behind that is the energy. Anyway, we have focused from the very beginning in getting our products tested, certified, studies by third party institutes, because we knew that there are a lot of people out there that need to see proof that this works, and need to see how it works and how it can improve the physical body, for example. And yeah, so we have lots of studies from various different institutes, and we're constantly working on new studies. So right now we have 3 studies further underway, and it's very exciting. So that's big focus of ours, to actually study this and make the research and those studies available to the people.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. So you place an object in between these two plates and it changes the frequency, and then you get to benefit from that frequency, and then it also changes the frequency around that object. So it's very different, right? And I don't think it's a bad idea or like a bad thing if people think it's woo woo, because like a lot of things, especially in the biohacking world, like it starts as woo woo until it becomes mainstream. Um,
Exactly.
and like more people adopt it, right? So when you put a object in between these two plates, like how does it actually change the frequency?
Yeah, so it doesn't, so the nuance here is that it doesn't really change the frequency. So we try to differentiate between frequencies and just pure quantum energy, even though on a deeper level, also that is just a frequency. But so what it actually does, let's say if you put a golden watch in there, then it raises the vibration, and it energetically enhances the gold, and it optimizes it brings out the full potential of the gold. This is the only way to actually describe it, because that's anyway what this field does, and it does it actually also um, with ourselves. So if we're in this field, it's an invitation into our own completeness, energetically, but also
Oh, shoot.
physically, and it helps us with that. So if you put, let's say, a little crystal in there, the crystal, and you may have had crystals before, and you probably remember, if you have had or seen different crystals, that some crystals are just, they seem to be in their full power, and they're vibrating in a very nice level, and then there are others that almost feel a little dormant or
Mm.
not really present. And so that all comes out after you put it into these blocks. It's pretty amazing, because it makes the full potential come out of these crystals, or of the gold, or whatever you put in, pretty much. And it doesn't really
Yeah,
change the ring or anything. It just optimizes the vibration.
right. Yeah, it's so interesting to like think that this is actually possible now, right? And I think if I had this at home, I would just like put my body through it so I could optimize my own frequency. I have no idea if that works, but like that's immediately where my brain went.
Yeah, so I mean, people, that's what people do. It's one of the ways they use these blocks, because so one of the things that has been studied is indeed the positive effect on the human body and the bioenergetic field. And we wanted to see, okay, really, what is the physical impact if we look at the blood of people. So there's a doctor's office in Austria that performed the dark field microscopy study together with an institute there, and they took our product and then they measured. They took a blood sample and looked at it under a dark field microscope, and then they took the quantum block, put it in front of that person. The person put the hands inside, and just already after 5 minutes, the blood significantly improved under the dark field microscope. And it happened over and over again, and it didn't matter, was it an old person or was it a young person. And yeah, so that's pretty profound, and that's just one of the things that happen. It Yeah, I mean, we have reports of people that had knee pain for the last 10 years and couldn't do anything, so they put the knee in and suddenly the pain goes away. This doesn't mean that this happens each time you have pain, because everybody is completely different. Everybody has their own physical state and different story, but there are a lot of positive impacts that have been reported, as well as a lot of positive impacts that have actually been verified and certified in various studies.
I'd like to interrupt this podcast to talk to you about Sensate. You've probably seen me talk about them on Instagram lately, and I'm finding it very interesting to be using this device regularly throughout the week. It is a device that helps tone the vagus nerve, and it does this through sound and vibration. The vagus nerve is really important for keeping you calm, keeping you out of the fight or flight mode, and really, like, just really great for stress management because of how it talks to the rest of the body and how it helps everything kind of connect. It's really cool to use a device for something like this compared to a supplement, or breathing techniques or anything like that. Like, it's cool to try something different, and that's exactly what Sensate is. So it tones the vagus nerve through sound and vibration. So you hang it from your neck and you lean back against the couch, or you lie down and let it vibrate right on your chest plate, and that's where you're actually able to tone the vagus nerve and reach it. So it's very interesting, and it's cool because you actually feel the difference right away. If you're stressed with work and you take 10 minutes aside and go and use this, like, you'll feel calmer within like a couple minutes. It's really, really cool. And the science behind this company is very, very interesting and is a very growing field. So I'm excited to see that. But yeah, I definitely recommend trying it if you're looking for something that's a different for stress management and for um, getting into your parasympathetic state more often. And you can definitely go and use it and use my discount code. Please use that. I love getting these for you, for my listeners. My discount code is biohackingbrittany, and you can use that at getsensate.com/biohackingbrittany. And yeah, definitely try it out. And if you have any feedback or love it and want to talk about it, you can always message me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, I think it's really cool, and I want to get one of these blocks for my house just because um, I think it'd be cool to use, and I think it'd be cool to try out and put different things like through it and see how I feel, and also like put my body through it and like put my dog in it and like really just like play around and test it out. I'm very open to this type of thing because again, like I just don't think I think there's so much out there that we don't understand as humans, and like you said, like we can't see with the naked eye, a lot of us, and there's more to humanity than what meets the eye, and I really do believe that. So it's very cool that you have developed these products. Um, yeah. So what are like the typical benefits, right? Like if I were to get one of these and I like changed or like updated or improved the frequency of, something I was wearing, for example, like what are the benefits that I would see or feel?
Yep. So the the benefits are on multiple different levels. So one is really on the unseen level, right? Some people are very interested in that, so they tend to meditate, do yoga, and these things, and they just try to, yeah, just become closer or get more access to their own consciousness, to their higher self, to their inner voice, however you want to call it. And so it helps with that. So let's say you meditate usually for 15 minutes, and then now you meditate for 15 minutes, and for a few minutes while you're doing that, you put your hand inside, you will notice that you'll get way deeper and you will access more of your inner knowing, for example. So those are
Mm.
things that you can do with it. But then really purely on a physical level, obviously, it has positive effects. We talked about the blood already, so positive impact there. We had done heart rate variability study also
Mm.
by a different institute. That is actually the largest independent research and testing institute for all things EMF in Europe. It's called EGEF, and so they did this heart rate variability study. So the heart rate variability, some people may not know that, has a direct connection to the autonomic nervous system. So if your heart rate variability improves, that also means that your autonomic nervous system is in better shape and vice versa. So you can test the impact of EMF, for example, with the heart rate variability. So, and it's very interesting because not everybody is impacted negatively by EMF. And so I know that just from an energetic perspective, because none of the healers in our network, for example, that we work with, none of them is bothered by EMF. It doesn't, they can be sleeping underneath a tower and they would still not have a really negative impact. However, that's just a very, very small portion of people that can do that, or that have such an expanded consciousness that they're not impacted by it, and the vast majority of the people is really negatively impacted. And that also
Yeah.
came out in our study, that above 90% were really significantly impacted by the EMF that they were exposed to. And it was measured in the heart rate variability. And then once our products were introduced, the heart rate variability optimized and regulated in an optimal fashion. So that was quite interesting to see. And yeah, so people use it for that. And so we've done also different tests where we just tested, okay, so what if you just have that in your home? And so how does it impact one's well-being? And that was measured now by the so-called BESA Institute, and they actually picked a whole family that also had a rabbit, kids, man and woman, and they even tested the rabbit. And all of these people were tested before the block was introduced in the home, a couple times, and then the block was introduced, and then they were tested again. And it was quite profound what the result was. And they also did other tests actually in regards to EMF, where they really exposed people to a lot of EMF. They put them in an electric car, gave them a tablet, iPhone, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So that was a real EMF blast, and then see what happens then. And each time the the products were able to completely regulate out all the harmful effects that were seen prior to that. So that was absolutely interesting also for us to see, because we knew it works, but it's sort of a different thing that you give your products away to a third party institute and they do these tests. And yeah, it was amazing to see that it was really absolutely repeatable, and each time over and
Hmm.
over again that happened.
Very cool. Yeah, as somebody who's like developing my own EMF product, like as you know, MFEs, which is designed for women underwear to like protect your body and like primarily your ovaries from EMF. I'm very interested in third party testing and like how that all works and just to get the data behind the product to prove to your consumers that, hey, this is legit. And I think it's really awesome that you guys have done that to such an extent. And you'll be able to like make that public soon as well. So if you take an object and you put it between these two plates, how long does it have to be in there in order for the frequency to change?
So it depends which of the different blocks. So we have two types. One is called the quantum block. That is sort of the basic version, and it has specific use cases. It does all the things that I described beforehand, but it's specifically also designed from a strength level so that you could create real quantum frequency medicine. So you could even take a pharmaceutical, for example, that you think you may need, but you don't want to take it, and copy the frequency of it. And its strength level is designed in a way where the frequency is then not too strong. So that's a specific use case. And let's
Mm.
say if we take that quantum block and you just take your watch, for example, and want to charge that permanently with quantum energy, then 1 minute is already enough, and you can leave it in for up to 3 minutes. You can even leave it in longer. That's not a big deal. But after 3 minutes, it's pretty much um, full, and then that's it. You can't get more quantum energy inside unless you then after that put this very same watch into the so-called infinity block. So the infinity block is the advanced version, if you will. It is about 6.5 times stronger than the quantum block, and it works way faster. So there, it basically just takes like 30 seconds, and you're done with charging. But you also imprint more quantum energy into this watch. So it's this concept is like if you fill up a glass, then it's full. You can't get more in. But then once you introduce the infinity block, suddenly the you have more space in the glass and you can even put more water in. That's pretty much how it works.
That's really, really cool. I think it'd be so interesting to like I think we were talking about this over email, but put my emphies, like my underwear through it as like part of the product that people will receive. Like I think, yeah, just changing the frequency of it like that. I think that's really, really interesting. So I know you kind of mentioned like quantum frequency medicine. And this is a very interesting term and actually something I haven't really heard before. So, how would you define that for people?
It's basically leveraging only the frequency of a substance to the benefit of your physical health or mental health, energetic health. That doesn't really matter, and not the physical substance. So we have actually a lot of different frequency cards, and a lot of those have been developed by absolutely amazing healers that we work with. But then we also have a few frequency cards that we have developed with just physical substances, where, for example, we take a so-called biobase mix. That's about 78 different vitamins, minerals, and organic plant extracts that are vital for the human body. And we've basically taken just the frequency of that and loaded them onto these capsules or cards. And then you can leverage that in that fashion without having to take all
Mm.
those 80, those almost 80 minerals and vitamins. But I need to say, that's sort of the disclaimer, we have about two groups and they react differently. So there's one group that doesn't seem to need any of those supplements anymore once they're using and leveraging them on a frequency basis. But then there's another group, and I actually belong also to that group, that still takes supplements, physical supplements, but the effects are way greater. So it seems that it's almost as if the bioavailability significantly increases in what the cells can absorb and what the body can do with it. So it's phenomenal. Like there's an absolute increase in the result of a supplement once you take it if you also have the frequency available.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really cool. Um, yeah, this is very interesting to hear. It's just things I've like never really thought about. And it's, yeah, just expanding what you think you know. And I just love that. And I think it's very interesting. Where do you think that the world of frequencies and EMF is going in the future?
Well, so on one hand, in regards to frequencies in general, I think that people will become more aware of, that frequencies are really all around, and then that there
Hmm.
are a lot of very beneficial frequencies that we can leverage, but then there are also harmful or potentially harmful frequencies, including EMF. Well, now mainly living in an EMF soup in most places,
Yeah.
and it's at this point we cannot see that this will change anytime soon, right? With 5G being rolled out pretty much all over, so we just need to adapt, right? We need to find ways on how we can become like the healers that we work with ultimately, right? That it doesn't affect us. And on the way there, like, it's a difficult path and not so fast. We need to use tools, and like your Emphys, for example, which I think is a great idea, absolutely amazing. And yeah, so we just need to leverage tools and then figure out how we can help ourselves despite the EMF soup.
I'd like to interrupt this podcast today to talk to you about Inside Tracker. So, the truth is that people age at different speeds. The date that marks your birthday doesn't necessarily reflect your body's biological age, or known as your inner age with Inside Tracker. Learning your biological age can definitely seem daunting at first, and I felt the same way when I did this test. But it's more than just a simple measurement, it's a starting point for you to take control of your health and wellness journey. Inside Tracker is a personalized nutrition platform that analyzes your blood, DNA, lifestyle, and now fitness trackers to help you optimize your performance from the inside out. First, they analyze your body's biomarker data to offer you a clear picture of what's going on inside. Then they provide science backed recommendations for positive diet and lifestyle changes and track your progress every step of the way. If you're interested in this, definitely check it out. I'm so, so happy I did it. I learned a lot about what's going on for me. You can use my discount code biohackingbrittany through the link in the show notes, and that will get you 25% off both testing your biological age and any of the other tests and products as well. So that's biohacking Brittany for 25% off. Yeah, I think that's right. I think we are in an EMF soup. I would, and like I don't know if this is possible because my understanding of these things is quite new, but I would love to have a product that I like, maybe they're glasses or I don't know what it is, but that I use so that I can actually see the frequencies. And like, I don't know if that's humanly possible. It totally could not be, but I think it would just be so cool if someone came out with something that said, "Hey, use this and actually you'll be able to see the radiation that's coming from your Wi-Fi or your phone or whatever, and then be able to see the frequencies or radiation from like technology that you're developing." Like, it's just so hard when you can't see it. And like I totally believe in all of it, but it's so difficult.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great idea. I don't think it's possible that way, and it also
Hmm.
I don't think it's because the physical seeing is not what's going to help us see this. It's actually really what's behind it, right? So you can see it with your being can see it, but because it's not conscious, you can't see it. You know what I mean? So it's more
Hmm.
about training the ability to see on that level, and then you'll notice, feel, sense a lot more. And that's pretty much what I've been telling people also, that it's not these bunch of healers that are just absolutely amazing in their skills and everybody else doesn't have these abilities. No, it's not the case. Everybody has the ability to see energy, to quite some extent. And it's really, we need to start connecting with our inner self again, and it's actually happening quite rapidly amongst humanity right now. We're not really noticing that because there's just so many bad stories out there and what's happening. The
Mhm.
focus tends to always be on the negative, but there's a lot of positive happening as well. And I think this ability to see behind what's in front will vastly increase. So I wouldn't be surprised if in 2 3 years, you, with all your work that you're doing, you will be able to sense way more. Just you have your eyes closed, and someone drives you close to a tower, that you'll feel that. And someone drives you somewhere else, you still have the eyes closed, and there are two towers, and then you'll feel that. You know what I mean? So you have the ability to do that. And I think, yeah, that's what we need to train again.
I think that's very, very cool. It's almost like you can't see what you don't know type of idea. So it's more of like, I guess, the education and being open to this rather than
Yes.
like you said, like physically seeing it or like having a device that shows it to you. I think that's very interesting, and I'm definitely going to think further on that. I'd love to be able to notice frequencies more. I notice it right now living in an apartment. I really struggle living here in terms of like um, feeling very overstimulated all the time, and especially like I'm on the 19th floor, so there's just like Wi-Fi routers everywhere, and I'm not grounded with nature, and like I can't really touch any nature unless it's like just a plant in my apartment. So I and then like if I go into a forest or by the ocean, I feel very different. So I feel very grounded and calmer and like just like happier or like content. I don't even know how to describe it. But so I have that right now, and that has been increasing a lot. Um so it's interesting. And I'm also, this is me going on a tangent, but we are in the process of buying a house right now. And I'm very, very conscious of the placing of it in relation to cell phone towers and nature, and like how, yeah, is there that balance of like not living totally off grid, but still not being in a city and being overstimulated. So that's kind of like where I'm at and what I'm struggling with at the moment.
Well, I think it's fantastic that you're having these considerations and that you're having a focus on that. And, and I think more and more people will. And, the people that are not yet putting a focus on that, they at some point will notice that they'll have to put a focus on it, right? Because,
Mhm.
yeah, if you don't see and appreciate and look for the natural, then yeah, we end up in this completely artificial world. And that's very easy to do, right? Because the artificial is all over, and there's a fight against the natural. That what is anyway there, that comes from nature. And so we need to now look for that again. And when we find it, then we feel what you just described, because that's what it is. And that's part of this energy, by the way, also, that the blocks um, transmit, because it's an energy that is great for the cells. It harmonize. It's completely harmonious with the human cells. And I always tell people, we drink water to live, we breathe air to live, and to some extent we eat food to live. But we need energy. Um,
Mm.
Probably way more than food. And if we how do we create that, right? We can create more life force energy through yoga, through meditation, tai chi, all, breath work, all that kind of stuff. But if we have a little bit of extra energy that we can tap into, that's great. That's like having great and clean water and pure water to drink versus polluted water, right? That makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to be on the podcast. I will definitely link to all of the different products and things that we've talked about, so people can like take a look and find you. But yeah, where can people connect with you easily if they have questions or want to talk further about this?
Yeah, thanks so much again for having me. And the best thing actually is to maybe join our Telegram group. It's actually a user group where
Hmm.
people share their experiences and people can ask, hey, what did you notice with this and how do you do that? But I'm also active in that group, and then people can actually click on me and private message me also, and I always respond to all of the messages. It may take me a few days sometimes it's way quicker, but I always respond. So that's how they can interact just in general, but also in a direct way. And maybe I can send you the link to that, the invite link to that group. Then.
Yeah, yeah, please do. And I will put that in the show notes and probably join the group myself as well. Yeah, again, thank you so much for coming on. And I'm so excited for people to hear about this and kind of like broaden their knowledge. And yeah, this is really informative. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. As always, feel free to screenshot this episode and tag me if you'd like me to respond. I really hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you have a question about your health, my DMs are always open and I'm currently taking new clients. Thanks and see you next time.